solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the
Free
British
and independent
crown.
states. They have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
What a powerful time it was. What a magnificent document. Time for America to be free and independent. The document, written primarily in the eloquent language of Thomas Jefferson, declared it. It also declared something else. It was essentially a declaration of war. America fought the first battles to win outright independence over there, on Manhattan and Long Island. The campaign that began there was a near disaster. General Washington would barely escape capture when Britain's General Howe confronted the Continental Army with the largest invasion force seen in the 18th century. Although it was the first formal battle of the war, it was not the first battle. A whole series of actions and reactions, bloody confrontations such as those at Concord, Lexington, and Bunker Hill, had led America and England to the brink of declared war. But the Declaration of Independence pushed both parties over the edge. The Americans knew full well that the Declaration made war inevitable. The British simply had no other option. They had to put down the rebellion by force of arms. But consider this. When you examine the last line of the Declaration of Independence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They not only expected war, they realized it was quite possible they could lose it. Manhattan, to all the world, a symbol of American power. Yet in the summer of 1776, when George Washington and his poorly trained army of volunteers prepared to defend New York against the onslaught of a mighty army, few would have bet a continental nickel on the chances of the young nation's survival. It was David and Goliath all over again. Here was Goliath, the most powerful nation on earth, a well-trained, well-equipped, well-disciplined army, the most powerful navy in the world. And there was plenty of gold in the war chest to finance and supply this powerful force. In addition, the British forces were strengthened by some 30,000 German mercenary troops. The British, in their heavy red coats, bearskin hats, and waistcoats, must have been an impressive sight, as were the officers with their sashes and regimental colors. The basic weapon was the old Brown Bess, a large-bore flintlock musket, which was accurate to about 100 yards. Probably the most interesting element in the entourage accompanying the British regulars were the camp followers, women of doubtful reputation who were issued army rations just as though they were soldiers. No more than 6 camp followers were to accompany each company, but there probably were more. In contrast to the British, the American army was frequently an ill-clad, badly fed, poorly paid collection of often homesick volunteers. Because of cold and hunger and a need to go home and help hold the homestead together, desertion was common. Washington once wrote, "We shall have to detach one half of the army to bring back the other." Early in the war, the Continental Army had no uniforms. This caused some difficulties in terms of the saluting of superior officers. Without uniforms, who could tell the difference between a private and a general? The problem was solved when the officers were ordered to wear brightly colored ornaments on their hats. The American-made rifles, by and large, had a longer range and greater accuracy than the weapons of the British, but they were scarce, and many were homemade. Since there was such a wide variety of bores, it was necessary to issue lead, and the soldiers melted down and molded their own bullets. Cannons were more scarce than rifles. Those locally forged were very unpopular among the artillerymen because of their tendency to explode. In short, here we have two forces which seem totally mismatched. Amateurs with no uniforms, few weapons, and poor pay, against fully equipped, well-fed, seasoned professionals with mistresses. Obviously, all is not fair in war nor love. I went